Hiring industry advisors, hiring ex-executives of accounts that you want to break into, or attending market conferences are all good ways of founders getting their first enterprise deal. The problem is they're very expensive and none of this shit is repeatable. So after spending $3.2 million getting my business to $7 million in revenue, I wanted a bolder approach that was repeatable that anyone in my sales team could do so we could crack the 8 figures and grow faster and grow more profitably. And we came across something called a Black Swan Insight. Using Black Swan Insights, our average meeting time for first meeting with an enterprise on our named account list went from 8 to 12 weeks down to less than 2, and the average account executive could do it. The other thing too, because we didn't attend conferences or hire executives or hire advisors, our average cost of acquisition of an enterprise account worth $1 million or more at my first business went from over $300,000 to under $50K, and made it way easier to break into our first account, with the majority of that $50K just being labor hours from the team to make it all work. And the best part about it is I got to stop attending fucking conferences. Hated the food, hated the environment, and I just knew that the major market players were going to beat me at every turn, so I had no leverage in actually getting access to who I wanted to. And you might be thinking, a 7-figure enterprise deal is impossible for a startup to make, and I just like to tell you what's at stake. Firstly, if you do crack it, it stops you from having to raise capital and spend more time in the market because they will give you way more cash. 2, if you're like, I don't know why they would work with me, big companies that are super effective and efficient struggle with innovation. They also struggle with ever getting innovation from consultants or other big companies. So if they want to do innovative things and they want to transform, a startup is the only option. Having an engine 2 that actually doesn't have much leverage on them is a safe way of moving boldly. Although it feels counterintuitive, it's your greatest opportunity. So in short, it's actually a lot simpler than you think to acquire a transformational deal with an enterprise as a smaller business, but you just have to play the game differently. And the way that we worked out how to do that was something called a Black Swan Insight. A Black Swan Insight, really, really short and too long don't read, is when we found out an unpredictable event happened and it forced the large business to move strategically in a new direction or revisit what didn't work. Put it simply, they got burnt and they had to change before it was too late and their share price tanked. That was a perfect environment for us to reach out at the right time and say, we have this unfair advantage. We noticed this Black Swan event that had occurred or this insight. We really think we could help you. Now that sounds super easy. And the reason is because it's actually hard to do in practice, which is finding the right account at the right time, actually having the courage to do it and knowing who to target. But the great thing about artificial intelligence is that a process that used to take us a few weeks and a shit ton of man hours really now just takes a few seconds and a few bucks and some creativity. And at our recent event in Orlando, which we did with 26 B2B founders in our Counterparts program, we launched our Black Swan AI agent that each of our customers now has access to. And in a sheer span of minutes, it finds Black Swans across all of their names accounts and gives them an approach. And rather than give you that agent, we're actually going to give you a 3-part video series so that you can implement it without us. We're going to tell you and show you why it works, how it works, and what it is. That's video 1. Video 2, frequently asked questions that come from new players and how to overcome common objections when you actually use this approach to get your first meeting. And last but not least, how you can then use the Black Swan Insight to run an account-based marketing strategy. So the value is they come to you before you go to them. That's video number 3. We want to give you this 3-part video series so you can crack your first enterprise account. If you'd like to work with us to actually unlock it, we help founders close a 7-figure deal with their first enterprise customer in less than 16 weeks. Check out the link below. And if that's too pricey for you, you can jump straight into our free implementation where we give you a trial of our Black Swan agent in our 3 weeks to visionary. That is also below. And if you're like, I don't want to sit here and watch 40 minutes on this Black Swan, I can guarantee you this approach will work for your business. It only costs a few bucks and you've just got to be courageous enough to do it. And if you're still doubting it, enjoy the fucking shitty conference food, enjoy the 15-minute meetings, and enjoy wasting your time. Right now, this is the greatest opportunity you could be missing. Find the black swan, go after people that need you, and show them how you can transform. And that 7-figure deal can happen in a matter of weeks versus a matter of years. All right, so if you want to find out the whole swarm process and what we went through, including why we executed it in its past, you can jump into the guide that we have for this event. You can also find this in the intensive guide. But just the 6 steps, it'll tell you why, it explains why obvious channels don't work, it'll explain how to do this in a swarm, it'll explain how to apply it, and then how to add those signals into your LinkedIn Ads Manager. We're not going to get time to do the campaign manager, so if you want to sit down with me with your Black Swan report, and I can set up your campaign the right way so it doesn't cost you money. If you want to run a post and you want to boost it so you can get more people that don't know you, just come see me today and I'll help you do it. It's pretty quick, it's pretty easy to do, but there's a lot of mistakes you can make when you do it, and they're costly mistakes. So we're going to go now to how to turn a Black Swan insight into a post. If we just jump down to the Black Swan post tab, thank you. And so one of the things that we use our Black Swan insight for is for a break into the named account we're trying to target. But another problem that you're going to face is how to get more people that don't know you to know you, which is a real problem. That is the lead start problem or lead generation problem. Okay, so if you're not targeting, well, you can use a LinkedIn post the same way using that data. So people struggle with what to post on LinkedIn. People struggle to post. Founders who have low testimony or low proof, so they're just getting started, really find it hard to get the right content to get noticed, to either it generates an organic lead or you sponsor it into an ad and it generates a lead through an ad. The great thing about a Black Swan insight is you could take what you took from the insight and use it to increase your market credibility. Simply put, if you do a Black Swan and you find a Black Swan, you can take that information, turn it into a post, and you saying that post actually builds your credibility. If you build your credibility and you do it consistently enough, you will start to attract a new audience from the market you're trying to target, and they're going to see you as someone that's sophisticated and thinking about the market, not just your own business. And so a great way to overcome that gap of what do I post about? I don't have enough testimony yet or proof, is to take the Black Swan tool and tell people about what you found out. It gets the person that you tag, gets their attention. So we actually tag the named account in the post. So it gets their attention. And 2, it attracts lurkers that you don't know, because you've now mentioned the uncomfortable truth with someone in the market that is known, shakes them out of hiding. And a lot of people on LinkedIn are lurking. Hopefully when you see Joel, some of the things that you'll start to see with Joel's session this afternoon on how to convert from post to vision meeting, and some of the things he's learned doing that at volume, is that people are like, I've been tracking you, I've been reading your posts. And so this is a great way to find more lurkers that don't know who you are by trading off the positioning value of the named account and the Black Swan insight you found out. So what's at stake? People don't know you, don't know what to post. How do we answer that? Turn the insight into a post, and we call it an avatar post. So let me just show you an example. Here's one we did for JB. So you can see here, QXO is someone that he's trying to talk to. You can see right at the start, there is a Black Swan insight of an $8 billion empire in 11 months. You'll notice that the CEO of that organization is tagged. It's written in JB's voice for sure. He even puts the CEO's bio, okay? And he goes down and he goes deeper into the Black Swan insight. As we keep going, he keeps going up. We start to mention that the uncomfortable truth is this just a machine. And JB's uncomfortable truth is that B2B distributors effectively can be Amazon good. Like they can actually compete with Amazon, right? If we start to look at the data. And he's calling that out. And he's using what we call an insight post. So if you go into our framework and you go to step, we have a myth and then we turn it into an insight and then we change people's perspective. So you just take the same framework, but slot the Black Swan into that framework and tag the individual. Now, he also just did an AI generation, which is pretty cool. So if you're ever worried about AIs, making my post go bad, it's not. But if we come down, this is organic. This has never been sponsored. And so I think you'll probably find Caleb in there. Look, there's me. But maybe that's what got it there. No. You'll see 17 reposts, 46 comments. And if you scroll up, it's because it's an uncomfortable truth with a black insight validating it, starting with a myth that then flips into something that people don't consider. It's just a finely tuned machine, and it's been done in 11 months, which means anyone could do it. And you'll see that he has a CTA on it. If you are a B2B distributor and building supply, and you are now watching two different forces move towards you at the same time, Amazon is lowering the barrier to entry. QXO is raising the scale requirement. So you've got to start playing the game because Brad is going to eat you alive. If you start to look at the comments underneath, you start to see, look, there's a named account. They've named themselves, which is pretty cool. And you just start to go down and you see people leaning in and commenting. And some of them are going to be complete AI. But you're seeing a conversation starting across the board. And this post, I think generated, I think it was about 17 inbound leads. I'd have to confirm with him, but it was more than 10, but less than 20. And it was just trading off the Black Swan insight on QXO. And the insight was 11 months. Like, that's crazy. It's a machine. There is a play, and this is what it is. And so just to call out, if you're like, oh, how do you turn this and increase credibility? Well, it's increased JB's credibility. And one of the things that happened was that Brad engaged with the post. So if you're sitting there going, I don't want to upset anyone, remember it's the tone of the message that matters. And so if you go up, what are some things that he did well on tone? Well, the first thing he did extremely well is he named Amazon as a slow-moving storm, but he named QXO as a lightning strike. He gave them their own sort of supernatural power. So it makes it positive. It's not like, Brad's robbing Amazon and both Brad are coming for you. He sort of says, we got a storm so he does a really good way of describing the scenario that we can see unfolding in a positive way for Brad. In 11 friggin' months, I don't think I've ever said frigging in Australia, but the Canadians in the room might be a little bit more polite. But I think, in a really simple way, you're seeing his personality come through. And that then changes the tone, okay? And then you see, he's a bit of a joker, JB, a bit of a trickster. On a professional here, this is why Brad, I'll pretend we're on a first name basis. He's really just continually leading in to an affable tone because that's his nature.
And signaling that he's getting information, he's tracking the news, not tracking the guy.
That's right.
Not his buddy.
Yeah. That's right. And so all of a sudden then that news that's credible that you didn't know is like someone gives him a thumbs up, who's the person who he's talking about. And, just to make it even just that little bit more human, let's make the guy a cartoon, but a good looking cartoon.
which is a really smart piece of creative. 100% shot from the hip. So I was like, this just feels right to me. And he did it. We didn't tell him about the creative. He was like, what do you think of this post? I'm like, this just looks like an insight post. Make sure you tag the guy, let's roll. And so this is a really good example of generating top of funnel leads based off a Black Swan insight to show you sophistication, capturing someone's audience and doing so. If you might get, like, they might ignore it, but in this case they didn't. And then at the same time, for the people that you want to talk to, like say Brad, it's like, what is this guy up to? You're immediately now on their radar. So if you swarm the organization to talk to them, or you are, you've elevated the conversation already from a better start point than just a vendor. And we have more opportunity to break through because we're literally building it in public. Any questions on that?
Yeah,
Right.
is there any reason you
You're looking right at me, that's all.
yeah, no, it's interesting. I saw his beat him. What the hell is going on?
Yeah. Right.
But so he was actually targeting QXO as a target.
Yeah, he's like he needs to. JB's challenge is that his audience of who he's trying to talk to is less than 5% of his LinkedIn. So if you look at the post before this, he's like, "Is something wrong with my LinkedIn?" Like, I'm like, "No, your audience is like the amount of impressions you're getting is actually connected to your ICP." And so we had to figure out a way of getting him out of his current audience of people that just know him and his last business to these B2B distributors. And so this was just the insight avatar way of breaking out.
And so you want a company that's like, you know, for example, Microsoft, there's no chance of getting their attention. So, but you want someone that's like small enough, big enough that they have an audience, and small enough that you might get their interest.
Well, like they should be on your named account list. So they're on a named account list because they're doing transformational work. Like they're transforming, like they're the lightning strike. And so they're not the market leader yet, but they're trying to be something that's equivalent to it. So just like when there's a turnaround, that's an emerging player. And because they're an emerging player with a visionary, it's going to have people tracking it. There's going to be interest. And so like if you do your named accounts right, make sure they're emerging, visionary, or in turnaround. If Microsoft isn't in turnaround, emerging, or visionary, they're probably not for you to target. Yeah. Does that help you?
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions from the floor?
The strategy was to break out of his echo chamber.
Yes.
Organically.
Yep. Yep.
By
Because
leveraging his social capital on
by leveraging the targeted account combined with the Black Swan insight we found about the targeted account. Yep. And so now we have like his audience liking that post, but also if you look at the sort of people liking it and commenting, it now has components of Brad's audience. And so now we're leveraging and merging the audience in so we can then get better and better at JB's post before we sponsor anything because his audience was quite small, which some people have. Like, for example, I didn't have an audience of founders. All my audience were enterprise buyers. So I had to go through the same process. That's where we figured this out. Yeah.
Were you sponsoring pay for marketing?
Yeah, I would. You can always sponsor a post and then you can target it. It will generate, but this will be a more cost-efficient way. It's a little bit bolder, a little bit more courage, but I think it works, especially if your tone is the right tone and you've made the right read on the organization. So they're winning, right? So it's like, let's learn from this. If someone's going through a bad thing, have more empathy. Be like, I'm really worried about this brand. I love this brand. Like whatever it is that compelled you to make them a named account, put it in there truthfully and it'll work.
And in terms of the engagement, like the leads that came from it, did it end up being context at QXO, or was it just random companies aspiring to be them?
I think it was the second one more. Yeah. Which is interesting in itself.
Yeah.
But it highlights the people like, but remember the CTA is very specific. The CTA wasn't a QXO CTA. So it was people that responded to the CTA of like, are you a B2B distributor that's in the middle of both the slow moving storm and the lightning strike? I think you could do a QXO, get me a conversation with Brad, And I think you might find that CTA, I think you'd have less organic. So it's a trade-off. But that CTA and what he's trying to say is very much about the market and is attracting market perspectives. And one of the reasons we did this, other than increasing the audience size, was to get JB interviewees for his uncomfortable truth. Which is another great thing you can do with black swans and with an emerging player. It's like, it's interesting enough. It's not Amazon. You know, we all don't want to talk about Jeff and his problems all the time and how he's on a shitload of steroids. You know, let's talk about the new guy or girl coming in, right? Yeah.
For those of us in K-12, do you have any suggestions or insights around the stereotype is that certainly teachers aren't on LinkedIn as much. I don't know how much the district leaders is on yours to this, but any insights or advice?
Joel has a whole session that's worth, like, I'm not going to answer it. I'll let him, like, well, let's have space for that session because he's got a lot of conversion in that space from this platform amongst other things. I would say, like, my rule of thumb at a really simple level is the charter schools are on there. And right, how many schools do you really need to get out of a few million? And then I would strongly lean into, like, how do I create my own, how do I turn my social object interview into a conference like this that then we start to drag people that don't have a digital presence into this type of presence? And so the game is like, how do I get 100 customers, not how do I get all 10,000? And look, we've found in all the K-12 that we're working with, charter schools, international markets like Australia, Canada, and the UK are actually really prevalent on the platform. But if you want to know the actual number, we can, when we set up your LinkedIn audience, whether we want to do it here or we do it in one of our workshops, we can actually just show you. Yeah. And it'll change your mind pretty quick. You'll be like, oh, okay. Like now I see the real number. It's quite surprising. It's enough to run targeted ads. But we'll see. Like, is it as powerful as targeting consulting firms? No. But it's still enough to get those initial customers that build your traction. Yeah. Anyone else? Nope. Okay, so if we go down, just to give you a quick reminder, underneath the post, please, that the way this post works is that you start with the myth, you turn it into the truth. So you can start with a myth and you contradict it, or you can blend it like JB has. So he's pretty much just said, it's been done in 11 months, don't think you can't do it. The myth is no one else can do it. Amazon can't do it. He just goes straight into saying it at the same time, which you can do. Then you show the proof. Did you notice how in the section of the post it had all the numbers of QXO? Right, and then he went underneath and put the reasoning, and then the CTA. That's it. And so if you go into our step one, there's a section which is like 3 different types of LinkedIn posts. This is just the evolution of that with the black swan inserted. That's all. Really useful way of starting to become newsworthy. If you're really struggling with finding your voice, you can talk about a market perspective. My strong thing that you need to have is you do need to have your point of view on it. So if you're easing your way into posting, you do have to have your own point of view. Otherwise, people are just going to be like, you're just generating stuff. You don't really have anything to add. Stop talking. And so why does this work? It earns attention by being uncomfortable, not by being clever. This is great. The tag is a public signal, not a DM, which means people can act on it. It routes to them directly. And last but not least, myth to truth weaponizes belief. So reason those people reached out to JB, they were like, shit, we didn't realize there's another team. Now we're really going to have to do something before someone becomes our new master. Anyone not be able to do this? Anyone feel like they couldn't do what we just showed you? Yeah? What's holding you back?
It's Switzerland and Europe data compliant. Even though it may not literally be a legal thing here, there's just such a taboo about bringing in people or companies. Companies I think could be okay, but certainly people without their prior agreement would be seen as potentially highly risky. And I don't think you have the same thing in the States.
What do you mean?
in Europe.
What data is getting breached?
I mean, bringing in someone by name that hasn't, that you haven't contacted, doing a whole story about them. If they're not like a public figure, considered a public figure already, would be considered a breach of their privacy, essentially.
If they've signed an agreement with LinkedIn to be a public profile, isn't that the opposite of that?
No, what I mean by public profile is more a legalistic view of what is public. So someone who is a public personality. So if you do it about Trump, that's fine because he has decided to be the president. He's now a public personality. People who have not agreed to do that. So there's a certain uneasiness partially linked to a legal or at least a moral.
So is it black or white, or is it just uneasiness and social anxiety?
It could lead to negative consequences.
Like what?
Felt that, like if they were to kick back, it could be a legal thing. It could also just be a big retribution, like on, I guess, directly to you.
Yeah, I would, if I was you and you're worried about that, like I would clarify if it's a legal thing or if it's not and it's just a feeling.
It is a culture of privacy, though, in Switzerland especially.
Yeah, but like, is it actually a legal thing or is it just a...
I need to double check that.
Yeah, do that.
Without that, it is definitely a very strong culture of privacy. That's why when people
Sure.
move to Switzerland, they can just walk down.
Yeah, but like how many of your customers are Swiss?
At the moment, all of them.
Right. What about new ones?
They're not looking at new markets.
Yeah.
Outside of Europe, yeah.
Just do that. Also, like, you only live once, man. Like, seriously, like, what? There is no,
Like the Swiss Army.
like, what are the fucking Swiss gonna do? Like, they're gonna tell you to take it down and you're gonna be like, oh, okay, sorry, I just got a bit excited. Like, don't, at the end of the day, I think it's more a social thing, but I would find out. Yeah, and also, like, just do the US accounts. Yeah. They're way faster to buy. They're not really worried about this sort of stuff. As soon as someone gets your number here, everyone has your number. Damn you, Zuckerberg. But, I think at a really simple level, like, try it out in the other markets and just be okay with, like, the Swiss aren't regarded as being entrepreneurs, so, but that's the game you're in. So, yeah. I guess, interesting question. Like,
I know there's a couple cultural things between the US and Switzerland, even more so than Europe, but Europe in general.
Yeah, I've always worried more about the character I'm playing versus the geography I'm in. Something to think about, wish to prevail versus wish to be loved. Some countries, love is a stronger value and others, it's not. And if we want to win entrepreneurship, we've got to lean more into being disliked as a fixed cost. So I would strongly give it a go after you've done your research. And if you're really worried, just try with the American accounts first. I think they'll like it. Okay. I just don't want you not to give it a go. Yeah.
I'm in.
All right, let's go. The next session you'll see on here is how to set up your ad implementation if you just go down to the Accelerate. If you are new to ads, we have the definitions, how to set up the audience. The one thing I'm just going to quickly show you is the setup of the audience. This walks you through how to do this. In your implementation workshop, if you just rather me do it and then show you how I do it and ask questions to get it right, this is something you've got to get right so you don't waste money. You can get a lot of traction off a small amount of dollars and a bit of time. And so how is this valid to what we're talking about today? If you go back to the Black Swan Insight, you'll see that we produced the audience. Just go to do you have one of them open or no? The report? Yeah. At the bottom of the report, did you see all those little segmentations? That just translates directly across to the ads manager. And you can actually copy the JSON file if you want. I prefer to just look at it and type it in and start playing with it because I'm not that smart. But that's all you need. So if you do want to be like, oh, this Black Swan Insight has taught me more about my customers that I didn't know about, and you were like, Tom goes, I need an ideal customer profile, and this is one of the customers I want to work with. That little outlay is the ideal customer profile. And so we can take that and put it into an ads manager, or think about every customer that we've got and use that little box. So if it's the first time you're segmenting and splitting up a market on who do I want to serve, that's all it is. Yep, shoot.
The question is just, at what point, when does it make sense to start with that? Is it kind of do the 30 days, iterate, find the best posts, and then start it? Do you hold off, or?
Yeah, well, if you don't have enough leads, then you want more leads. So the best time to start is once you have a organic post that generates leads without being sponsored. And then we double down on that post. That's it.
Basically, once you get at least one post that generates 1 or 2 leads.
Just one, maybe 2. Because like, your biggest challenge right now is your LinkedIn audience is an echo chamber. So it's really just so once you know you have something valuable and people are taking action on it, then you just want more people that are like that person that haven't heard from you to just see that one thing more times. And so our same we run the same 3 posts sponsored. We don't change them. We just run them 4 days a week, and they'll generate, about 900,000 roughly a year in that type of revenue. So it's not a big deal if you get it right, but the hard bit is getting it right. The second bit is getting the audience right, because the system will try to make it bigger, but you don't want an audience size less than 30,000 or more than 300,000. So that's the size audience you want to advertise to get the most out of a spend. And then once it works, like, you keep it going as long as it works. Because if it's generating leads, then as you close more sales, it's like you want more and more business. And then when it stops working, you're just like, why did it stop working? Most of the time you just change the CTA or change the hook, change the picture, the creative, and just run it again and it'll work.
And the basic idea is it's way cheaper to do it with your own audience, even if it's small, rather than just doing a bunch of ad iterations.
Yes, but you never used to be able to do that. So it's only cheaper now to do it that way. So you'd be crazy to do it the other way.
Yeah.
So before you used to have your organic content and then your advertising content. Now you can just it's merged. People don't really care. Like if you go to your LinkedIn feed right now, LinkedIn's done a great job of making all the content look organic, and then people are sort of okay with it. They don't.
You care if it's bad.
Yeah, that's the right. So we've moved from having a care about whether we're advertised to having a voice, to we've overwhelmed now with influencers. So they're selling you something. So is it good? And so that's our opportunity, because it means we don't need to run 2 different content schemes to figure it out. Yeah. If you're doing a B2C business, you generally still have to do the other one. But if you're in B2B, that's our gain. We don't actually have to do as much to get the lead. I don't know. So here's one. You can see, looks like a post. So this is what we call merged media. That's just an advertisement. Keep going. Keep going. I think you'll get another one soon. There you go. That's a company advertisement. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, I don't know if you can see as fast as me. Right. Here you go. Here's another merged media. So keep going. Keep going. Oh, you went too far. Now I'm sick. Here we go. If you click there, that's just a post that they sponsored, right? So.
What about using your company versus your personal?
Don't use your company, waste some money.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn. People are responding way more to the merge media than they are content media, and for you, every dollar counts. Once you get your organic content getting sponsored works, then we can move into the company stuff. The company stuff is really good for retargeting. And so, but you do a retargeting, you make it a video, and you sit it on the company page, it works really good. Because what it's doing is people are tracking you, but they haven't acted on it. And so most of the time it's how can I be more human? It's here is me more human. And video really works on the company page. There's just some LinkedIn nuances, but don't do the company now. Because people are I don't care about the company, I care about people.
In terms of, you mentioned video. That's something for a post, should we bother with video or just
Once you get a post that works, then you turn it into an ad. And that ad is working really well. Then we turn that post into a video because the cost of video is a high content cost. So you're better off doing high quality video on something you know works and just releasing it again, and people be like, oh my God, like this is a new video, like they think it's new. So does that help you?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. What you can do is long form anchor content video, which is why we suggest doing it in the social object. It's easy to do, gives the proof people are looking for, but it's the production value doesn't have to be as high as long as the conversation value is high.
And YouTube for that?
Landing page or YouTube, it's up to you. AI visibility, YouTube. Yep.
What's the threshold you look at to, when you determine that it's working?
Really, really simple. As long as there is a click-through rate on a single image post above 6%, so the ad manager will show you that people that saw it 6% or more, great number for LinkedIn single image.
That they clicked on.
They would have clicked on the post, they would have expanded it, they would have commented on it, they would have liked it, they would have followed you, they would have clicked on the image. They're all counted as a click-through post when there's no button.
So 6% or more click-through. Right?
Yeah, so X amount of impressions, Y amount of click-through. If that's 6%, you keep that post going. As soon as it drops under 6%, you change the post.
And click goes to the company page or your profile or what?
It's just a click on the actual content itself. It's not a traditional lead funnel into a tag, and you don't need any of that stuff yet. You just need people seeing you, clicking on it, going into your DMs. You want people to go into your DM, like direct, want to talk to you. Most ads just need to start a conversation because you need more conversations with people that don't know that are ready to buy. That's all you need right now. Anything else on ads?
You said 3,000 to 30,000 people.
30,000 to 300,000 is the best size. But like I said, we don't have enough time to do the activity. But if you do want to do the activity, we can do it while we're here and I can show you. Or you can do it on your next workshop. It'll take me 10 minutes with the segmentation that we just generated. Especially if you use a named account of someone you want to sell to direct. And we'll get it set up for you. For everyone though, like 60 days of posting, following our framework, we will find out which one generates the ad. So if you can give us 60 days or you have 60 days and you get a lead from something you post, go for it. Okay. Hey. Yeah, last question. Jeffrey, did you have a question? Okay. What are you two so excited about?
We started laughing and I'm sorry.
About what?
About the fact that he was offering the suggestion that I need a VA. And I said, can you help me with that? And he looked at me and he said, no, I can't. I said, why not? He said, I don't have time to do your VA. Like,
Gibbs.
no, that wasn't what I was asking. I just wanted to have you give me an advice on which one to use.
Okay. You're right. So any questions on how to turn a black swan into a post, or just anything quickly on how to turn your customer segmentation into a LinkedIn audience?
When you say posting for 60 days content, are you talking about including Black Swan posts or
Yeah.
a variety of posts? Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're doing 5 a week and you're struggling for content, a Black Swan Insight post is a good one to do.
How often would you do a Black Swan post?
Once a week. If you have low testimony, if you have high testimony, just stick to proof. Nothing beats proof. Proof is customer did this thing, went through this transformation, got this result. Or I did this thing, went through this transformation, got this result. Yep.
Something I got hung up on when we started talking was what can proof look like, and proof could be like something you've done a number of times if you have a high number of it, output from customers, results from your, like it doesn't always have to look like a customer testimonial saying you're great. There's lots of different types of proof that you can use to show your expertise.
Right. And almost the avatar is a little bit of proof, especially if someone's done the change, right? In that case, it's a good example. But try, 4 to 5 posts a week, 60 days, use the framework, we'll find the ad. And the Black Swan Insight is just a great thing to do if your audience for who you're selling to on LinkedIn is small. So like, if you don't have the audience, it'll break through.
Can you connect this to external CRMs?
Yeah. Have you spoke to Hennessy's about it? Set up your call. Speak to Hennessy's. Okay. Last thing. If you want to know how we do swarming campaigns, you can sit down with Hennessy's and she can set them up for your named accounts and connects the cold email outreach we do to your LinkedIn. So then people should be coming into your DMs that are just getting automatically connected every day. I think your Imagine Learning meetings came from that funnel that we operate for you.
That's right. Huge unlock.
Yep. Yes? You have it.
So you said Hennessy's is kind of owning all that, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you can book a time with her, but if you have a question about it, make sure you ask me before we leave the call.
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to take 5 minutes. We're going to come back at 11:27. I want everyone as tight as we can around here. Laptops, notepads shut. We have one more activity before lunch. So take 5 minutes, get resettled, come closer around the circle, and we'll jump in.